Today, we're going to talk about mapping out our marketing plans. What are the three things? Because you guys know I'm all about the three things, right? So I was really putting some time into this and spent some time trying to identify what really are the top three questions I get about developing a marketing action plan or a marketing plan. And I'm going to tell you what they are, and we're going to go over them, okay? So the first question that I get is, how do I identify and reach my target audience effectively? How do I identify and reach my target audience effectively, right? So this might be, you might be struggling with defining who your ideal clients are or how to connect with them. Maybe you're seeking some guidance around narrowing down your target demographic and understanding what communication channels will be most effective in reaching them. That's what we're going to talk about here. The second question that I get so much is, what are the best strategies for building brand awareness on a limited budget? Because when we all get started, we have zero budget, right? There's really not a lot of money in the kitty. So that's not uncommon for us as we get started to have a very, very constrained budget. So in order to maximize our efficiency, we need to know what cost-effective methods are available to get our name out there, right? So you might be curious about, do I do social media? Do I do networking opportunities? What are some other creative tactics I can use to increase visibility that won't break the bank, right? We're going to talk about that. The third question I get is, how can I measure the success of my marketing efforts? So understanding how to track the effectiveness of your marketing efforts is really going to be key. You want to know which metrics to focus on, how to interpret them, what benchmarks to aim for, how to gauge progress, and refine your strategies over time. So if you're new around here and you don't know who I am, my name is Nicole Broadhurst. I'm a former healthcare administrator turned independent patient advocate, founder of The Circle, and CEO of Tennessee Health Advocates, where we help busy, committed professionals maintain work-life balance without the frustration of medical billing departments. That's what we do over there. But on Wednesdays, it's all about creating sustainable and profitable practices in patient advocacy without the chaos of entrepreneurship. So, why did I start The Circle? Back in 2019, I opened my business, and by the end of 2020, I was ready to quit. It was too much. It was exhausting. I was making less than minimum wage, and I was working 10 times, 100 times harder than I would at a minimum wage job. I was ready to quit. I was ready to just throw the towel in. But fortunately, I met Jason Elkins. I went through his 100 Cups Academy, and it changed everything. What I learned in that program is that I needed a community in order to grow my business, increase awareness of my profession, and maintain alignment with why I became an advocate in the first place. So if any of that resonates with you, you are in the right place. Let's get started. Get your pen, get something to drink, get comfortable. We're going to talk about all of these questions about marketing and creating your marketing plan. Before we get started, I want to say this could feel like you're drinking from a fire hydrant. So what I want to say is that I've broken this into three questions, right? If you take one action from each of these three sections, you will have your marketing plan ready to go. Okay? I want to say that before we get started, because there's more than one thing in each of these three sections. I just want you to focus on picking one from each topic, and that will build your plan going forward. All right? All right, so the first question was all about how to identify and reach our target audience effectively. So identifying and reaching your target audience effectively is really, really hard sometimes, but it is crucial because it forms the foundation of your marketing strategy. So the first thing is, why is it important? Because it allows you to create precision in your messaging. All right. What that means is knowing your target audience really allows you to tailor your message specifically to address the needs and the pain points of those you aim to serve. By doing so, this really increases the chances that you're going to resonate with potential clients and establish a really strong connection. There is an offshoot of what I want to talk about in regards to messaging. And this came up recently, and it's going to sound like a tangent, but I want to share it because I feel like it's really important that we as a profession talk about this. Has anybody read the book by Simon Sinek, Start With Why? Come on, I know you right there are reading it. Raise your hand. You know who you are. There she is. All right, great. Okay, so in this book, Simon Sinek really talks about what it takes to bring a new idea, concept, product, or service to the masses. Okay, I'm not going to get into all of the technicalities, but here's the gist and what I want you to hear me say is that it is impossible to bring a new idea, product, or service to the masses of society without acknowledging the organic law of diffusion. What in the world did I just say? There is scientifically a natural and organic method by which new ideas, new products and services gain traction among society. It happens organically. You can't change it. You can't avoid it. It's just the way the universe works. And it has to do with the person being innovative and bringing the new idea, product or service. We're just going to call it an idea for right now, but just know it can be a product or a service, right? So somebody has to innovate it, right? And I think it's like 2.5% of the population are innovators. They bring new ideas to fruition, right? And then once the new idea has been created and initiated by innovators, the first people to adopt it and accept it are what we call early adopters. And you guys all know them. You might even be one, right? These are the people who go stand in line for 6 hours to get the brand new iPhone. When they can sit at home and 2 weeks later run into Verizon and just buy it real quick and walk out. But they don't do that. They go stand in line, right? Once they start adopting and doing things, then the mid adopters start to do it, right? And as you think of general population as this bell curve, right? And on the left side of the bell curve, which is over here for you, that's my right, but we're going to do it over here. The curve is up like this. So we have the innovators, and then the early adopters, and then the mid adopters, and then there's a tipping point right at the top, right? And what happens? Everybody accepts it and says, must be a good idea. I think I'll go get that. I think I'll go do that. Now, why am I telling this story? I'm telling this story because independent patient advocacy is new, right? Where do you think we are on that bell curve? Are we on the right-hand side? I mean, left-hand side, early adopters? Or are we up here at the top where everybody's like, yeah, I want that. I want that. We haven't hit the tipping point yet. That's another book, by the way. It's on my, like literally it's on my phone right now, Tipping Point. Malcolm somebody. So why are we talking about this? Because we're talking about messaging. And I can't tell you how many times I hear from advocates, people don't want to pay. They just want me to do it for free. And I'm going to tell you, after the last 2 weeks of the reading and the research that I've done, this is why. Your message is missing the early adopters. The masses are not ready for your services yet. It's too new. It's too unique. It's too ambiguous. They're not ready for that. Our marketing message collectively, we need to be speaking to the people who will stand in line, who will pay a premium, who will do anything to get access to this new thing that's available to them. And we need them too, because the only way we're going to get the masses on board is if they get on board. So bring it all the way back to what I was talking about, messaging, which is going to lead into some other things later, and I'll revisit that, but keep that in the back of your mind as we go through. The second reason that reaching and identifying our target audience is really important is because it allows us to optimize resource allocation. Again, really big words. It makes it easier for me to know where to put my efforts, right? So by understanding my target audience, it allows me to allocate time and resources, specifically time, especially as I just get started, right? Focus my time, my energy, and my budget on channels and strategies that are most likely to reach and engage my ideal client, which ultimately gives me a better return on my investment, right? So it allows us to allocate resources more appropriately. And then the third reason it's really important is because, of course, and you guys will not be surprised, because it allows us to build long-term relationships, right? Effective targeting fosters meaningful relationships with our clients. By speaking directly to our target audience and their concerns and their interests, we will build trust and credibility. And go back to the previous recording, this is all laying the groundwork for long-term partnerships, collaborations with each other, referrals with each other, and word-of-mouth referrals from our clients. All right, so now we're going to talk about the actions you can take to effectively reach your target audience. All right. Now, pick one, right? We're just going to pick one. But the first thing is, and this is, again, we've already talked about this, so I'm not going to go into huge depth or detail. Conduct market research. Okay, research your audience thoroughly in order to understand the industry landscape and the needs of your potential clients. This includes things like demographic data, pain points. You can use surveys, interviews, online analytics. All of these provide really valuable insights. And if you want more information about market research, there is an entire session that we did. Go search on the platform for market research. You will find the recording, and it will go into in depth about how to do that. Okay. This is one of those places that I also want to refer back to. Remember, I was just saying, as you craft your message, you want to keep these early adopters in mind. When you're doing your market research, I'm going to encourage you to go back to that as well and be thinking about, okay, who do I know? Because we all know these people. Who do I know that's an early adopter? Right? We all have friends that stand in line for hours to get concert tickets. We all have friends that have to have the brand. Who here, this is going to date me, but who here lived in a home that had the first microwave on the block? I did. My dad, to this day, right? As soon as something new comes out, he's like, I got to get it. We got to get it. We got to have it. We got to have it in the house. We got to go get that right now. Okay. So who do you know that's like that? Because here's what I'm going to tell you. If you don't know how to talk to early adopters to get them on board with your services, go find these people in your life and start asking them questions. So for me, I would say to my dad, hey, Dad, remember when we had that big microwave that was like 4 foot wide and 3 foot deep, and we had to it took 3 people to lift it up onto the counter? Why did you do that? Like, what was it about that microwave that had to get in our kitchen? And you know what he would tell you? Because it was the newest and the niftiest thing. Nobody had it yet. Because to this day, 2024, right? That happened in the 80s. I was just a kid. All right. That happened in the 80s. But to this day, my dad loves to make sure you know he had that big old microwave on his counter. He sure did. He was the first one in our neighborhood to have it. Ask him how that makes him feel. Makes him feel important, right? Makes him feel like he had access. He was different. Right? He had something special that not everybody got access to. All right? Learn how to talk to those people and incite those feelings in them. Because I'm going to tell you, my dad paid more for that microwave than probably we pay for iPhones today. I'm just saying, like, seriously, it's crazy, right? It's crazy, but they'll do it. So the next time you're pulled to say, people don't want to pay for my service, are you talking to the right people? All right. So this market research, make sure that you're incorporating this early adopter thought process as you're developing your messaging, as you're doing market research, because again, we need those people on board and we need them on board in order to get to the masses. All right, so the second action you can take to make sure you're effectively getting to your people is you can create buyer profiles. And again, I'm going to kind of skip through some of these. Buyer profiles, some people give them names and say, hey, my ideal client is Steve. Maybe you've had a client where you're like, whoa, I really love doing the work for Mr. Jones. I wish I had 12 Mr. Jones. That's how it happened for me. Literally, I got a client, they were I don't even know their first names right off the top of my head because I always call them Mr. and Mrs. and I can't give the last name. Um, anyway, Michael was the husband's name. I loved him. Like I loved his work. I loved to get up in the morning and do work for him. And that's how I identified that I needed to get into the medical billing space because that was the work that I absolutely loved doing. So pay attention to your clients. Create a profile, a persona, give it a name, talk about it, really get clear on who that person is, their age, where they're at, where they hang out, what they like to do. Again, get into that mindset of early adopters as well. And then the third thing that you can do is you can test and iterate, test and repeat. Don't be afraid to experiment with different marketing channels, messaging strategies. Look, the truth is, as we get started, we're going to throw a whole bunch of spaghetti at the wall. Okay? Pay attention to track your metrics like engagement, conversion rates, feedback. Modify it as you go along. That's the name of the game. Like nothing I did the first time out worked. In fact, I'm going to tell you, even today, the first thing I do rarely works. Okay, I've got to reiterate. I've got to look at it and see, did that work? No, don't do that anymore. It's a waste of time. Okay, now to offset that, I also want to say, don't be so quick. I was just talking to somebody today. The things that are happening in my business today are a result of the things I did 90 days ago. So make sure you're executing for a significant amount of time before you say, oh, that didn't work. Okay, give it time. All right. All right, the second question, boy, I gotta hurry. Okay, the second question is what are the best strategies for building brand awareness on a limited budget? So building brand awareness on a limited budget is super common. We're all asking for it. But here are the effective strategies that you can take to increase your visibility without overspending. All right. Why is it important? And I'm going to kind of run through these. It levels the playing field. So for new advocates with limited resources, building your brand awareness really is essential for collaborating and networking with more established players in the industry. Okay, so I have to tell you, full transparency, some of the folks, when I showed up on the block and I started getting some awareness in the industry around Tennessee Health Advocates, it also allowed me to book time with some advocates that had been around for a while. I'm going to drop names. Think people like Trisha Torrey, people like Anne Llewellyn, people like Karen Isaacs, people like some of these players that have been around for a while, right? Because they heard my name. They started seeing me around. And so when I asked to connect with them, they were like, yeah, I probably should connect with that person. And so it levels the playing field, the more awareness you get in the industry. It also allows you to maximize your return on investment, to identify more cost-effective strategies. So that's something. And then it also, here's the other one I want to spend some time on. It creates momentum. All right. Establishing a strong awareness around your business, your practice, your brand strategy can create momentum in your business and set you up for some long-term success. There is no shame in my game. Okay. I'm here to tell you, I'm in year 5, and every single bit of what you see happening in my business and in my brand is a result of building awareness when I first started. Every bit of it. Every ounce and iota is a result of that action. So when I tell you it can set you up for long-term success, I'm not kidding. Because at this point, after this many years, like I just told my husband, I have a machine that is presenting new leads almost daily. Okay. So it creates momentum. Think about how you're going to create awareness of what you're doing. All right. What can you do? What are the actions? Let's get into what are the actions. So for those of you that love social media and you know who you are, you're the people that scroll through social media like regularly. I am not one of them. I did not build my business there. This is not the action that I took. But there are people, like if you're already on social media, you need to be leveraging that, right? Like come up with a strategy for social media that already fits with the actions you're already taking, okay? Leverage your presence there, leverage your time there. I would say pick a platform, maybe 2. Don't get too spread out, right? Because you want it to be very concise. And the truth is you don't need to be everywhere, right? You need to be one place and you need to be there really, really well and do this test, refine. And then as you get something that's refined, then you can expand it onto another platform. You'll see I never share anything that I'm not actively doing. So who has noticed that I'm doing short form video? Who started to see those little clips on video, like on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook? So you're starting to see it, right? I'm starting to do it. I haven't done that for 5 years. That's new. You know why that's new? Because I wasn't ready. Because my message wasn't ready. I didn't have the right bandwidth to do it. So don't be afraid. Like, don't do the things that don't work for you. When it's time for you to do it, you will do it. Okay? So if you're a social media person and you want to leverage that, go for it. In addition, you can use you can watch your KPIs in that plan are going to be like things like creating content, valuable content, participating in conversations, increasing your audience. And just a reminder, later this month on the 27th, Dr. Nancy Taylor is going to come and join us, and she's going to talk all about grow your audience, grow your business with a strategic newsletter campaign. Like that's a way to do that. That kind of falls into content marketing. So we'll talk about it in a minute. But if you're a social media person, do that. The second thing that you can do is you can tap into networking opportunities. Okay, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. We have all kinds of recordings that talk about maximizing networking. I've shared over and over how literally that was the base of my business. The reason that I'm here with you today is because I built my business on network marketing. Period. End of story. There's more. If you want more recordings on how to do that, I'm going to encourage you to go look on the platform, type in hashtag networking, I think that's what it is. But if you just type in networking, you'll find all kinds of hours of video on sessions we've done about network marketing. When you get started, you can attend all kinds of, whether it's in person or online networking events. We, in fact, inside the circle have a quarterly networking event. You can build your business through network marketing. The third thing you can do is you can create and focus on content marketing. So maybe you're a writer. I know some of you, I see your post and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's such a writer. She should be writing. Like, that's her thing. Like, if that's you, do that. Write. Leverage your writing, your blogging in social media or email lists or whatever it is, but use that content that you're writing and do it. Like, do the thing, right? So if that's your thing, go do it. Content marketing is a super cost-effective way to showcase your expertise, attract your target audience. Just be sure that you're creating really high quality, informative content like blog posts, videos, podcasts, or infographics that address the needs and interests of your audience. Again, this goes back to, what are those early adopters looking for? What do they need? Right? By consistently delivering this valuable content, you're going to be able to establish yourself as thought leaders in your niche, right? And attract really loyal following over time. And again, this is super weird for me because, again, watch what I'm doing and watch what's working. It amazes me that I show up here on Wednesday and y'all keep coming by. It's insane to me. So, but I'm going to attribute that to the fact that there's something of value here, right? Like, I must be giving you something that's helpful. Otherwise, you wouldn't hang out with me. I mean, I know I'm nice, but I'm not that nice, right? There's got to be a reason. So you can do that too. All right. Last question, and I'm going to pull it out of here. So the last question is, how can I measure the success of my marketing efforts? All right, so now we're going to get into some nuts and bolts. Measuring the success of our marketing efforts is crucial because it provides us insight into the effectiveness of our strategies. So what does that mean? It means I spend a whole bunch of time trying to get leads and new clients. How do I know what is working and what isn't, right? So it's important to track this and to measure it. I can sum it up into one sentence. What gets measured gets treasured. I heard that probably 30 years ago. I was sitting in some sort of seminar of some sort. What gets measured gets treasured. And I've learned that that's the truth, right? If we measure something, we're paying attention to it. By measuring your success, the success of your marketing efforts, it's going to allow you to make informed decisions based on data instead of assumptions or guesswork. And listen, if you have been paying attention to any of our Mindset Mondays lately, we have been spending all kinds of time talking about feelings versus feelings. This last week, we were able to identify intuitive feelings versus ego feelings. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch that video. But this is where it's really important to base our decisions, our business decisions, on data and not feelings, right? Because sometimes I feel like I'm super unsuccessful, and then when I look at the metrics, I'm like, dude, that actually worked. Holy cow! I thought it was failing horribly. So my feelings aren't always accurate. It also allows us to make continuous improvement, right? So when we see trajectories changing, we can pivot and make changes and improve our services and our marketing efforts. And of course, measurement allows us to demonstrate return on investment. Let's get into the action stuff. Like, that's why it's important. But what are the actions that we can take to start measuring these? Get really clear on your objectives and your key performance indicators. I love that we're in healthcare because KPIs is like a normal word, right? Key performance indicators. So make sure you're establishing very specific and measurable goals for your marketing initiatives. For example, maybe you want to increase your website traffic. Maybe you want to track and generate more leads. So you need to have a way to track your lead generation. Or maybe your KPI is getting more followers on social media. Whatever it is, make sure you have a definitive measurement way to measure it, right? And then identify the KPI that aligns with that objective, such as website analytics, conversion rates, engagement metrics, or just followers. It's funny, followers is not one of my objectives. However, I was on LinkedIn this week and I was like, holy smokes, when did that many people start following me? I think the last time I looked at it, it was like 200. Anyway, so define what those are and then measure them. Make sure that the second action that you can take is implement some sort of tracking tool. I'm going to tell you, it's a spreadsheet in Google Sheets. It is an interface inside of Zapier. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's okay. If you do, go use it. Leverage that tool that is already out there. Maybe it is, for example, Nancy's going to be here talking about that newsletter thing to grow your audience, grow your business. Maybe it's the number of people on your email list, right? Yeah. So maybe that's it. And then the third thing that you can do is once you've got the KPIs identified, the tracking tools identified, then you can evaluate and adjust your strategies, right? Because now you have a way to look at what's happening. And if what's happening is what you intended to have happen, great, keep doing more of it, right? And if it's not, then maybe adjust the strategy and do something a little bit different, okay? So I'm going to kind of close it up here. Those are the things. Remember, pick one thing from each of those three things. You'll have a great plan. Okay? Never try more than 3 things a quarter. It's too much. Okay? So by following these steps, by taking one action out of each of these 3 sections, it's going to allow you to effectively measure the success of your marketing efforts. It's going to enable you to make data-driven decisions instead of feeling decisions, right? And it's going to drive continuous improvement in your practice, all at the same time that you're demonstrating tangible results for yourself and any stakeholders that you have in your practice. So I hope that was really good. I hope that it was helpful.